Well, hey, Southern Oregon, welcome back to the Real Estate Show. So glad you could join us today. I'm Alice Lema. I'm a broker with John L. Scott Real Estate here in beautiful Southern Oregon and your host of the show. And today we are so excited. We have two folks from the Department of Energy, state of Oregon, joining us to talk about the construction projects, and the home energy score program. So Roger Kainu and Blake Shelide, so happy to have them. They're part of the Department of Energy in the state of Oregon. And our Department of Energy in the state of Oregon does have a lot to say and influences greatly our construction, our remodeling, our systems, and just the different kinds of HVACs we can put in, and talk about windows and hot water heaters. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. So looking forward to chatting with them. In the meantime, let's briefly touch base with our local stats. Our days on market are about what they were last week. Josephine County is coming in at 54 days on market, Klamath Falls 47 days on market, Jackson County 48 days on market on average. And just a reminder, a normal neutral market is more like 4 to 6 months, not 2 months. So what that says, we're still in a little bit of a seller's market. We still have a few more buyers than sellers. It's still a good time to get your real estate business done. Now, having said that, interestingly enough, this time last year, we did have more number of properties sold than now, but the prices this time this year are higher. So I just want to remind people, we still have a little bit of a housing shortage, and we have the number of properties being sold down, but the volume of dollars created by those sales is up. So we're getting more money for the same properties we were last year. There are not as many sales as there were last year, but we're bringing in more dollars. So anybody who's waiting to next year, I don't know. I'm not Nostradamus, but it just seems like the market is softening, but it's not going to be any kind of a big crash. But that's partly why we watch this every week and we talk about it. Okay, so there's your local stats for the week. We're going to welcome Roger Kainu and Blake Shelide of the State of Oregon Department of Energy to talk to us not only about conservation, but also construction, remodeling. And we're going to talk about the home energy score program. It's not mandatory in Southern Oregon right now. It's mandatory up north, but it's an interesting program, and it allows people to get an inspection of the energy efficiency of their home, which I'm so excited to learn more about. So let's take a quick break from our sponsors and get to our interview. Well, hey, Southern Oregon, welcome back to the Real Estate Show. So excited you could join us today. I'm Alice Lema. I'm a broker here in beautiful Southern Oregon with John L. Scott Real Estate. And today we have such a special treat. We have the State of Oregon Energy Department with us today. We want to welcome Roger Kainu, an analyst with the State of Oregon Department of Energy, and also Blake Shelide. Did I say that right, Blake? Mm-hmm. Close enough.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's a facilities engineer with the State of Oregon Energy Department. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Well, this really is such a treat. Our audience loves hearing the facts, from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Before we get started, though, let's talk a little bit just about what the Department of Energy is and how it's helpful to our citizens.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm Roger Kainu, and I represent the Oregon Department of Energy. And the Department of Energy helps Oregonians make informed decisions and maintain a resilient and affordable energy system. We like to advance solutions to shape an equitable, clean energy transition, protect the environment and public health, and responsibly balance energy needs and impacts for current and future generations. That's our mission statement, but more importantly, for those listening, I think understanding what we do would be more important. And then on behalf of Oregonians across the state, the Department of Energy achieves its mission by providing a repository of energy data, information, and analysis. We also are a venue for problem solving Oregon's energy challenges. We have energy education and technical assistance, and we also help advise regulation and oversight of different operations within the energy industry. And then we also provide some energy programs and activities. And I'd hand that back over to Blake Shelide, who's our facilities engineer. He's a very well-educated person, highly accomplished, and he interrelates a lot with the legislature, the Oregon legislature, to discuss matters that deal with existing buildings a lot. So Blake, can you comment?
Yeah, thanks, Roger. So as Roger mentioned, we at the Oregon Department of Energy help provide kind of that unbiased opinion, or like an unbiased facts around energy policy, energy happenings around the state. We help inform the legislature. We often provide testimony on energy related issues. There's currently a legislative task force for building decarbonization that we're just helping to provide input for, where they're looking at building energy efficiency, building decarbonization to help our state reach its greenhouse gas reduction goals. We also run a variety of programs. So kind of in addition to the policy aspect, we have a variety of programs. Some of those are incentive-based programs. Right now we have, through funding through the legislature to provide incentives for solar and storage, battery storage for homeowners. And we also have kind of a developing program that was passed during the last legislative session that will provide incentives for heat pumps, for energy efficient heat pumps for homeowners. And I guess I'll just take this time to mention now that just recently, over the past couple months, there was federal funding through the Inflation Reduction Act that we're just starting to learn a little bit more about. And certainly we're awaiting guidance from a lot of the federal agencies that will administer this. But there will be significant incentives for Oregon and for all the states for energy efficient equipment that can be used. So just something to kind of keep an eye out for if you're a homeowner that's thinking about an upgrade to some of your equipment or building a new home. There could be some incentives coming down the line.
Wow, that is so exciting. Gosh, so much to talk about. I don't know where to start. So one of the questions that comes up down here, you've sort of touched on, is when people are doing remodeling projects or doing new construction, how do they, like, first of all, what are the new standards or guidelines, and where do they go to get some of that information and education, just if they're doing projects this winter?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the current Oregon has what are called energy codes that sit within the building codes, and there's the Oregon Residential Specialty Code that is Chapter 11 that defines the energy efficiency aspects of that code that need to be followed, and that kind of governs and regulates things like building insulation, HVAC equipment, water heating equipment, air tightness, and things like that. And Oregon's traditionally been a leader in the energy efficiency code space, both on the commercial side and the residential side. Oregon was actually the first state in the country to have a residential code back in 1974, and has kind of led the way ever since. So, a great resource is your local building department to ask questions about, what are the code requirements. Here at the Oregon Department of Energy, we also staff a code hotline where you can call myself or call Roger if there's a question about a specific code requirement. But right now, actually, just tomorrow, the Code Development Committee that's kind of underneath the Residential Energy Code Board is just starting to discuss what will be the next energy code that's going to be effective in October, planned to be effective around October of next year. So it's about
that's super exciting.
About a year-long development process, and the state has goals to achieve certain energy performance targets with that code update that were set through executive orders. So with that 2023 code update, we're set to achieve equivalent performance to what's known as the U.S. Department of Energy Zero Energy Ready Home Standard. So certainly, aggressive goals, but will reduce cost for consumers and achieve a really efficient new home.
And what does zero energy mean, just for those who are not current with the lingo?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the term, you might have heard the term like net zero energy or even zero energy ready. And in general, there's a lot of different like nuances to some of the definitions, but in general, it's the ability to generate enough on-site renewable energy over the course of a year to offset the on-site energy consumption. And then just one clarification with this zero energy ready home target, there's not a requirement to install that on-site renewable energy, but the idea is that a homeowner could make that choice after the fact, and the home is efficient enough that if a homeowner were to install some on-site renewable energy, that they could feasibly achieve a net zero home. with the level
Oh, that's
of
pretty
efficiency that's built
exciting.
into the code.
Yeah. Do we have any of those net zero homes yet in Oregon?
Oh, I'm sure that we do. I don't have a database at my at the ready now, but I'm sure that Roger might know if there's some examples, but I have no doubt that there are some.
Yeah, I'd have to say that there sure is.
Mhm.
There's lots of, let me back up and just say, Blake indicated that Oregon has a very progressive energy code. So it sets a bar that's pretty high. And if you look across the United States, you'll see that the whole left coast of the United States is very progressive in terms of energy performance. And that's a good thing. We also have, like he indicated, we also have the direction to go further. And that would really provide even higher performance. Now, on top of that, Oregon is progressive in terms of having higher building performance programs. You may have heard of the Energy Trust of Oregon. There's other utilities within the state that operate high performance building programs. So they provide incentives for folks that want to go even above what Oregon's code is. So it's kind of a best of both worlds, where you have a high statewide code, then you also have the ability with incentives to jump even higher than that and build to a higher level.
And it's very exciting that some of the federal funding is being sent Oregon's way. Is that because Oregon is so much on the forefront of that, or was that those energy dollars kind of spread out over all the states?
Yeah, it is federal funding, and it does apply potentially to all the states. States will need to make applications with a plan for how to utilize the funding. But I think the infrastructure that Oregon's got in place, with the history of efficiency and a history of these incentive programs and a strong energy infrastructure, will certainly support the Oregon plan to implement these programs.
Mm-hmm. And do we have any ideas that federal money, did they have any strings attached, or is Oregon allowed to apply those energy dollars where they see best fit?
There are performance requirements, and a lot of the incentives would go directly to a homeowner or to a builder, but then flow through a state agency as kind of
that's cool.
administrative agency. And there's tax credits too that as a state agency we wouldn't really be involved with, but that could be a potential there too. But there certainly are efficiency performance requirements with some of that are attached to some of the funding, where you've got to meet a certain efficiency level or a certain performance level for that equipment to qualify.
Mm-hmm. And are these the energy codes that we have in place now? Can you talk a little bit about how they're sometimes applied differently in the major metro areas than they are in the less populated areas? Because I think people have some concerns sometimes when they hear all these rules and regulations coming.
Right. Yeah. So one thing that Oregon does have that is actually fairly unique is that we do have a statewide uniform energy code. So, the code in Portland is the same as the code in Eugene, is the same as the code in Medford, is the same as the code in John Day. It's the same energy code across the state. And Oregon has had, there's various energy code compliance studies that have been conducted that look at code compliance around the state. And Oregon's had, I think because of that, supported by that uniform code that a builder knows they can build in any different city and it's going to be the same requirement. Oregon's had really high compliance rates with our energy code requirements over the years. So, I think in general that, a new homeowner can be pretty confident that their home is being built to the energy code and that they're meeting the code requirements and getting an efficient home.
Oh, I see. So we have a standard statewide set of codes, and then the difference in the metro area application must be more about the energy inspections or something. There was some different handling of the different geographical areas.
So yeah, it's something that we probably can't speak to because I don't have a lot of visibility into the actual operations of individual building departments. But I know building departments try really hard to make sure that all the energy code requirements are met. But of course, there's resource and time limitations sometimes that are there. But like I mentioned before, Oregon's got a pretty strong history of compliance with the energy code across the state. But I'm sure that there are one-offs where there might be an issue with a particular aspect of the energy code might be getting missed.
Yeah, and definitely leading the way. That's so fun that we were one of the first in the 70s. That was a big move back then. I was around.
Yeah,
What was that?
So we're talking to the State of Oregon Department of Energy, Roger Kainu and Blake Shelide. Very happy to have you on today. Before we take our first break, do we want to talk a little bit about the energy inspection idea and kind of what that entails? And then we can talk more about it after the break.
Sure, I can handle that. So I think what you're intending to say is, and I think you alluded to it in the last comment there, was about the home energy score. And that's where we have state certified assessors come out to homes and actually come on site into your home and do an assessment of the home and deliver a score back to you so you know what the energy performance rating is of your home.
There you go. That's right. We've talked about that before when we were with you, I think last year.
Correct.
Yeah. So we're going to have to take a quick break. Lots and lots of interesting stuff from the State of Oregon Department of Energy. So thankful that you guys took the time to talk to us today. We're going to take a quick break from our sponsors. We're thankfully brought to you by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, also known as RVAR, John L. Scott, Ashland and Medford, and Churchill Mortgage. Guy Giles will be right back. Do not touch that dial. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. So glad you could join us. We have a great educational conversation going on with the State of Oregon Department of Energy. We've got Roger Kainu here with us today. He's an analyst, and also Blake Shelide. He is the facilities engineer, and we're learning tons and tons. So before the break, we were just starting to talk about energy inspections and those kind of codes. So Roger, why don't you finish your thought on kind of explain to people what that's all about?
Well, yeah, before the break, we briefly mentioned home energy scoring, and that's been a long process for the state to put this framework or program together. And back in 2009, we started looking at it and had a lot of different directions from the legislature to pull together people, what's known as task force, together to kind of look at how should we build a home energy score system within the state that's statewide, that's something that's consistent and accurate and easy for folks to understand. And when I got involved in this back then, it seemed like just the thing to do, because if there's one thing, and I've been doing this a long time, if there's one thing I know is as building science analysts, we like to really make things complicated. We like to talk about details to the nth degree. And Blake is one of the best at making lots of details sound very easy to understand. But for the most part, with experience in talking to people outside of my energy industry, I noticed that you can't keep their attention if you're talking about the U value of a window or the R value of your insulation and what does air change per hour mean and all that sort of thing. I mean, people they don't want to take the time to understand that. However, they do want the information. They want it in a way that's comprehensive, that's accurate, it's consistent. So this was just an easy thing for me to get involved in. And the home energy score is what we developed over the years. And it's a statewide scoring tool. So, but the legislature wanted us to have certified and licensed assessors that would come on site to anyone's home that requested it. They come in and they're fully trained, and they will pull 40 different characteristics of your home.
40?
40,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it goes from the orientation of your home, whether it's north or south or east or west, which way does it face? And also the window U values, so the resistance to heat or cooling moving through the window. They pull characteristics like what kind of HVAC system you have, what kind of fuels HVAC system, what the age is, with the wall insulation, the attic insulation, all those kind of things matter. And you take all those 40 characteristics and you input them into a system or a calculation engine. And we use the one at the United States Department of Energy. They have some really smart folks out there in Washington, D.C., and they use a lot of national labs that run these programs. And they came up with a way to say, hey, here's the estimated annual energy use for your home. Here is a score from 1 to 10. And gosh, it's just been so easy to communicate a lot of information in a very simple way. So think about miles per gallon on your car. if you go to buy a car, you can see the sticker that's on your window, and that gives you an estimated miles per gallon. It's easy for a consumer to make a decision based on that one thing. So we try not to tell real estate agents that like this is the new thing, this is the messiah of all things that's going to change everyone's buying decision. No, it's one piece of information. That score is one attribute. It's like a granite countertop. It's like a full bathroom. It's just one thing, not good or bad. It's just more information. And we found that realtors have really got on board in the cities that we operate in, because we finally get their attention, and we can teach realtors. We do a lot of presentations. We can teach realtors how to use the home energy score system as a benefit to them. They can sound super knowledgeable to their potential buyers or their clients. And with that, they just increase and up-level their professionalism. It's been a wonderful thing, actually.
Well, and more data is great. You know, it's like that's what makes good consumer choices, is having more information. And I love that. I didn't realize this started in 2009. That was such a long time ago.
It was.
Yeah. So are we able to talk a little bit about the technology for, let's say, heat pumps? Like, what makes a good heat pump? Is that something we could explore briefly in this conversation?
Blake, do you mind handling that one?
Yeah, I can jump in there. Happy to try to help. So, the way that, homes can have different heating systems. Some homes have just electric resistance heat, which is like an electric baseboard or like a little cadet heater that's in the wall. Some homes have gas furnaces, some homes have heat pumps. Heat pumps from an efficiency standpoint, if you're comparing like an electric resistance heater, they're pretty much the energy that you put into it comes out as heat. It's about 100% efficient. A heat pump, it kind of sounds strange, but heat pump actually has about a 200 to 300% efficiency. And you think like, how does that work? Like, is there some sort of physics laws that wouldn't allow to get more energy out of it? But the reason the way that happens is the heat pump isn't actually generating the heat that it puts into a home. It's really just moving it from one place to another. So a heat pump works by kind of moving the available energy and the heat that's outside into the home through a compressor, through just a refrigeration cycle. And it's really actually very similar to the way that just your typical air conditioner works or your typical refrigerator works. It's just going in reverse. So instead of like moving in, your air conditioner works by kind of moving the heat from inside the home to the outside and cooling the inside of your home. A heat pump is just the same, but just in the opposite direction. And by doing that, it can have, up to like a 300% efficiency. And, another part of, heat pumps that sound kind of strange is, how can you heat my home when it's 30 degrees outside with the air that's outside, or 20 degrees outside? But there's actually heat pumps that are in development now that can provide sufficient heat to the home down to like 0 degrees in some cases. So
Wow.
we're seeing a lot more cold climate, cold application heat pumps. And heat pumps are really common in a lot of places in the country to provide heat. And a lot of places in Oregon have a relatively temperate and moderate climate and don't experience negative 20 degrees very often, or even like consistent temperatures at 0 degrees, where heat pumps are a great application to provide the heat to a space. And they typically do have a backup source of heat as well, typically electric resistance heat, or in some cases it can be like a gas furnace that if it were to get cold enough outside that a heat pump couldn't just keep up, there's still a backup there so that the homeowner doesn't experience any discomfort.
So how does the technology move forward from that? If you're already getting 200 and 300%, where do you go from there?
Yeah, they're incrementally getting more and more efficient. So, jumping up from, one efficiency level to another. But I think where the biggest opportunities would be in cases where a homeowner might not have a heat pump, or they might be heating with just electric resistance heat to make a change out. And there's a variety of different types of heat pumps. There's like whole home distribution systems where you have like one central heat pump that's providing through a fan and through ducting air to the different rooms in the space. And then you might have also seen recently, there's been a lot of development toward what are sometimes known as ductless heat pumps. Sometimes
I was just going to ask you that question.
Split heat pumps. And those can be great applications where, maybe a homeowner doesn't have a central air conditioning or a central furnace system in the existing ductwork to plug into, and they wanted to provide that heating and the cooling to like the family room or to a bedroom. or just like certain areas in a home. And mini splits, ductless heat pumps can be great applications in those situations. I have a mini split in our family room, and it works fantastic. It's a heat pump.
They're great, and they're
and AC.
quiet now. Yeah. So Roger, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's it. I was just agreeing with their quietness and their performance.
Roger, for the ductless mini splits, this is just getting hold down here in Southern Oregon. How does the energy score work with that kind of a system?
Sure, that's just another one of the characteristics that we gather when we come on site as an assessor, and that would improve the score if you had a ductless heat pump or a regular forced air whole house heat pump.
Mm-hmm. So are the ductless going to be scored? Are you saying they're scored a little higher then?
Sure, yeah, because their efficiency has nothing to do with anything else other than they're just more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So do we have realtors ever complaining that the energy score is directing the system technology a certain direction, like more towards mini split than the traditional heat pump ducted system?
Honestly, I haven't heard that argument from realtors. They've stayed out of the technological debate.
That's probably good, huh?
Well, if they know what they're talking about, it would be an okay challenge.
Yeah.
That's weird, but very few people can explain things like Blake just did with how heat pump works. That's a very good explanation.
Yeah, that really was, because we've had HVAC people come on, and sometimes they can be simple and people get it, and sometimes you can. And it's a common question: what is a heat pump?
Right.
Yeah. So how is the energy score process going now? It was applied up in the Portland area first, wasn't it? Is that correct?
Correct.
So how's that all going?
It's going well. We first established a program actually in the Eugene Water and Electric Board. They started the first home energy score program.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, by using University of Oregon students. They were trained as assessors, which was a great deal for not only the student, but the utility to use them, helping people understand their energy use in that area. And it didn't hurt when the utility was paying for those assessments to be done either. So that's been successful. But that was back in 2017. In 2018, Portland launched the home energy score program in their city limits. And they went to their council, and the council decided to make it a mandatory home energy score program, which is a point of contention with a lot of people, because I mean, how many people really like mandatory things in their life, right? Not many. But the argument really around mandatory and voluntary is really about, do you really want to get something done? Because right now in Medford, you have a voluntary home energy score program, and there's not a whole lot of home energy scores being conducted in Medford or anywhere else in the state. It takes that mandatory feature to really gain traction, make people pay attention. And the way it works is you have a home that's listed for sale, and the mandate says at the time of listing, the realtor must contact a home energy score assessor, get that assessment done so they have a score, and then that score goes into a tunnel. And that tunnel ends up providing the information even to your smartphone, so you can review what your score is on your smartphone.
Oh, that is super cool.
Yeah, in the multiple listing service, you can see it. You can see it on vendors like Zillow and Redfin and others. So people are pretty savvy about these devices nowadays and the way they look at real estate. And when I've had more than one call me up and say, hey, I can see that this property is a 2 and this property is an 8. What does that mean? And so sometimes they'll call and they'll ask about what those.
Yeah. See, I think I agree with you. The mandatory thing is hard for some people, but this idea that we can get more information about these different properties, and it's concise, it's not emotional, and it's thorough, this is just going to be an amazing thing. So we want to talk more about this. We've got to take another break. I'm sorry, guys. Roger Kainu and Blake Shelide from the Department of Energy, State of Oregon. We'll be right back after a quick word. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema, broker John L. Scott here in beautiful Southern Oregon, getting a wealth of information from our very own state of Oregon Department of Energy. We have Roger Kainu and Blake Shelide here helping us understand what's new, what's already in place. And we were just talking to Roger right before the break about the actual new energy inspection. There's more words than that, but it's basically an energy inspection of your house.
Correct. Thanks, Alice. Yeah, we were discussing about the rollout of the Home Energy Score program in Oregon, and how it started with EWEB, the Eugene Water and Electric Board, and then it moved to Portland, and they developed a mandatory scoring program. You know, Portland's a big metropolitan area with about 650,000 people. And so it created a lot of interest right away because homes were being put up for listing, and that's when the home energy score gets done, although you can have it done at any point in time.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, good.
The policy mandate, though, requires that whenever a home is put up for sale, that you get a home energy score conducted. And then that score gets moved into what we call the Green Building Registry, but it's actually then available to go into the multiple listing services and to vendors such as Redfin and Zillow. So folks can see whether or not a home that they're interested in actually has a score. Mm-hmm. And that may make a buying decision for them. It may not. Some folks, they don't have any understanding about energy efficiency and what that means. Others are looking for 4 bedrooms versus 3. It's just a point of information. That's all it is. And for those folks that want more information, this is a good way to get it to them.
Well, it sure seems like, especially, I'm sorry, but seniors on a fixed income, they're constantly talking to us realtors while we're in the house about what it's going to cost to run the house.
Right, that's correct. And for many years, we've always given consumers or your potential clients the high and low of an energy bill. We'll try to call a utility and get a high and a low, but that's all based on the occupant interactions. Like you might have a client that is a solo person or a couple, and they're looking at a property that's been lived in with 5 people in it. And that the energy usage of that home is going to be much different. The home energy score helps evaluate what that property is like without all the occupants in it. So you can compare it to other houses equally.
You can, equal comparison. Yep.
Absolutely. Of homes like homes. And then after we implemented the program in Portland, we were able to move a program, the same kind of mandatory scoring program, to Milwaukee. And then after that, the next year we moved over to Hillsboro. So now we've got much of the metro area that's covered by home energy scoring. In the meantime, I've been working with many other cities like Hood River and Ashland and Corvallis and Eugene and Bend, and discussing, sharing the benefits of home energy scoring. We see what's been done in this metro area, in the Portland area, and we're more than happy to come out and help city staff and councils bring program work to their areas as well. And like I said, it's the big issue. It seems to be whether or not it should be a mandatory program versus voluntary. You can have voluntary right now. Anybody can call up and get an assessor to come to your home. Now, will you do that? That's another issue. But if it's mandatory at the point of sale, you can easily get that home energy score, and then the city starts to understand in terms of how much energy is being used within a city. Folks get all that energy use information right to their smartphone. So it works out really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think this is incredibly exciting. And you had mentioned before the break that there's a voluntary program in the Southern Oregon area. Can you speak to that so people know how to move forward if they want to?
I sure can. Yeah, I've been working a lot with the city of Ashland, which I don't remember the other county. There's Josephine and
Jackson, Josephine, Klamath.
That's it. Thank you. I've been working with those folks down there, and this is really a different program. It's very interesting to me, and that's where the realtors actually picked up the mantle and decided they're going to run a program in the city of Ashland. And them getting behind it and understanding what the program's about, whenever they talk to a client, they can promote the home energy score program and have them understand what the features are, the characteristics of the home, the operations of the home, and they can get a score for that homeowner. we think it's just a wonderful thing that Ashland's done. And, getting realtors behind it has just been an absolute benefit.
So are there energy assessors in Southern Oregon?
There's not very many, but we do have a few popping up now. And as soon as they hear about the market down there, the opportunity to do scores, they will come.
So is it an in-person, like a human comes to your property and analyzes it?
Correct. Yes, it is.
So how do they measure the importance of windows? Because we still have a lot of old houses down here in Southern Oregon, and they either have single pane windows or what we used to call storm. We have two pieces of glass, but there's cold air going in and out of all of it.
Right. When they come on site, the assessor will look at the window and they'll actually evaluate. They know the age of the home, and they'll ask whether or not the windows have been replaced. They'll take a look. Is it vinyl? Is it double pane? Is it triple pane, which I doubt it is? Or is it even single pane? Wood windows, all those things, those characteristics all matter, and they go into a calculation engine that determines what that score will be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how many pages is the report usually?
Actually, it's 2 pages.
Oh.
The first page gives you a lot of kind of graphical information. It shows, what the annual energy use is estimated to be. It shows who the assessor was, and how to get in touch with them for another assessment if you want. And then it also gives you the 1 to 10 score on a scale. And it discusses what the average is around in the area.
Oh, really?
And
so
then,
you can compare it to the neighborhood.
Sure.
Oh, that's
Absolutely.
super cool.
Then it also gives you some greenhouse gas estimates, like what's the carbon reduction factor for this home. It gives you just a small, real brief little picture of that for those people that really want to know about carbon reduction. And then it also, on the second page, and I like to highlight this because I think this is overlooked a lot of times, but it's super important. And that is based on that score and all the characteristics, the second page will tell you what upgrades you can do to your home and in what priority.
Oh, wow.
That's super important because I don't know how many people's homes I've wandered around in trying to help them, and they want to put new windows in a lot of times when it's really the HVAC system that's creating most of the issue.
Wow, that is so interesting.
Yeah. So having those priorities at hand is a real benefit to the homeowner.
And that also helps you predict the future value of the improvements you're doing, I would think.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. We can do that.
That is so cool. So we only have a minute left. We're going to have you guys back on. There's just like a whole page full of questions we didn't get to ask you. But if somebody in Southern Oregon needs to get a hold of an assessor, who do they call? Do they call you? Is there like a website? What do we do to get people on the boat here?
Have them go to the Oregon Department of Energy. On the left side of that page, there's a link there for home energy scoring.
Okay.
And you can find me on that page. You can find a lot of information. There's a link on that page that pulls up and blows up to all the assessors that are available. And most of them will travel to your area if they don't live in the area.
Well, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to see if I can order some this week for some of my clients so we can be in front of it. Thank you, gentlemen. We've been talking to State of Oregon Department of Energy, Roger Kainu and Blake Shelide. Can't wait to have you back on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you very much.
This broadcast will be repeated tomorrow, Sunday at 6 p.m. Go have a fabulous weekend. Bye now.